What's up, guys, and welcome back for another EVE Online solo NullSec episode. And in this episode, I really want to just kind of talk about a lot of the questions that I've been kind of seeing here on the channel lately in regards to NullSec. People more or less trying to transition out to NullSec if they've, are new players and they've been working in HiSec and they're ready to make the transition. I've seen a lot of comments that are pretty much kind of the same thing of like people trying to get out to NullSec. They get to low-sec or 0.4 and they get clapped, and then their question really is like, well, how do you even make it out there? How do you even survive out there? And one of the biggest misconceptions is that Null is actually a dangerous place. Null is probably one of the more safer places in the game. The problem is you have to get through low-sec in order to actually get over into Null, because if you look at it kind of like big picture style, all of HiSec is essentially surrounded by low-sec systems, and then once you get past low-sec, then you get into NullSec. Now, low-sec is probably one of the more dangerous places to operate. It is what I like to call the Wild West. So whenever you are actually moving out to Null, you will have to go through one or two, sometimes three NullSec systems to get into NullSec. But here's the thing, you can't just go to NullSec and just kind of get there and start shopping around for a corporation, because they rely very, very heavily on standings. And when you hear somebody say, that they're blue or something like that, that means that when you show up in local, if you're in the right corporation, the right alliance, you will show up as blue with a blue icon next to your name, and they will not shoot you. AWACSing or friendly fire in NullSec is heavily frowned upon, so you do not want to just go to NullSec and start looking at structures and corporations and start applying, because people will look at it as you as a newt who is, or a potential spy trying to get access to a corporation and that area or that alliance controlled area space, and start causing problems. So the best thing that I can recommend is a lot of HiSec corporations, or a lot of NullSec corporations have HiSec components. They use these corporations to train people, to vet people, and once you get to a certain skill level, and you're able to go through some of their training stuff and like maybe run some of their doctrine stuff, or you just get a little more familiar with the game, or they can just do personalized situational training for where they're living, then they will help you, or at least allow you to move out to their null block, and you'll be able to do that a lot more safely. That's the thing too, is like you can get through low-sec and just get into NullSec, but if you're not in the alliance or the corporation that you're going to be operating with, just getting into NullSec isn't enough, because you'd show up as a nude and people would just clap you pretty much everywhere you go. And also, you wouldn't have access to jump bridges. A lot of the traversing out, even from like the Jita area to the further reaches of NullSec, is only maybe like 20 or so jumps because of jump bridges. So you definitely don't want to like start traveling out anywhere until you are into the corporation that has access to those jump bridges, because then you can actually go to your route settings and include jump bridges in your route. And you want to be able to pick, if you're going out to Null, you want to be able to pick shortest route, because safest route is just going to take you through a lot of unnecessary jumps. It's better to just kind of like blitz right through that low-sec barrier. And also a lot of low-sec systems on the edge of known SOV null systems are controlled by the alliance that you may or may not be associated with. So once you get into a corporation that's part of an alliance, those low-sec systems that were pretty scary before will probably be mostly blue for the most part, so it gets a lot easier. For me, I usually don't gate out to Null unless I am in a blockade runner or a shuttle. That's just so if I do come across warp disruption bubbles or whatever, then I can get out of them easily. But for the most part, I just try to travel on a shuttle. They have passive immunity to those bubbles, and you don't have to worry about that, and their align time is really fast. Doesn't mean you can't be killed, but you're a lot harder to catch in a shuttle than if you were trying to fly pretty much anything else out there. And once you actually kind of get set up out in Null, you definitely want to set your home station to where you're going to be operating, so that if you do get popped when you're like mining or ratting or whatever, you're not shot all the way back to high sec and have to make your way all the way back. So you have the ability to get those jump clones kind of working for you. The other question I saw is kind of like how often or how long do I play each day, kind of what my routine is and everything, and kind of what I'm involved in. A lot of the stuff that I do, like resetting PI, I do that in the morning. I also do over 1,000 project discovery submissions a day as well. I try to do those in the morning, and then pretty much whatever I want to do after that. Those are really kind of the only things that I want to make sure I'm progressing every day. But as far as mining goes, if I'm mining in high sec, then I'll mine for a few hours there. Or if I'm messing with industry or something in NullSec, I might spend a few hours in NullSec. I'm usually always logged into my NullSec character, watching progress bars and watching PI, kind of processing stuff. And if I feel like it, then I'll do things like, go run rat sites and melt loot, or go mine kernite, crocite, if I'm needing like noxidium or isogen, or merc if I need morphite. I don't really have anything that I absolutely have to do every day other than resetting PI, and I'm doing product discovery because I usually do product discovery on 5 tunes at a time, so that every 88 days, 83 days, I essentially get 5 Marshall BBCs, which equates to about 50, around 50, a little bit less than 50 bill every 3 months. It's definitely a stretch objective. You really have to be pretty diligent. I do have like a spreadsheet that I use to kind of calculate and track all that stuff, but that's probably the one thing that I do that I would say most people that play Eve don't do, is mass amounts of product discovery. And also I change up my PI processing a lot too, so I will do things like run a certain type of processing for a certain type of P2 or P3, and I'll do that for like a week, and then the next week I'll change it. I'll change my extraction, I'll change my processing, and depending on what I'm building, I'm always kind of reorienting the PI that I'm doing. So it never really kind of sits for long terms like that, and that's just because I'm building a good variety of things. But I'm also just kind of like making sure I'm running like fuel block BPOs every day to make sure I've got fresh fuel blocks coming in for sale, and just taking raw resources really and just processing them into more useful things. But here in the next few weeks, I plan on doing a lot more focus on the null-sec mining. Null-sec mining is not necessarily all that difficult. You do have to kind of like keep an eye out for like rat carriers, rat dreads, things like that. You have to watch local a lot more than you do in high sec. But also I might see like 1 neutral a day usually, if in the area that we're in null-sec. So I have like, there's probably more of a chance for me to get like ganked in high sec than there is out here in null, just because it's when there are fleets running through, then you will know it from intel, and you'll be able to just decide and pivot your activity based on something else. Like if there's a lot of like activities, like hot dropper activities, or like a lot of neutral fleets flying around, then maybe instead of mining or ratting, I instead just focus on indie, or I'll use that opportunity to go and do high sec mining. And that's one thing I like to talk about too, is like diversity of play. If you're not able to do one thing, you're able to do something else, which can really kind of help everything moving forward. But if you want to be able to get out here and chill and null and do things like industry, manufacturing, PI, ratting, all that stuff, the best thing you can do is just start looking around on the Eve forums, or looking around the recruitment UI. Try to find a null-sec corporation that has a high-sec component. Get in there and start learning how they do things, and eventually get out there and start doing it. For me, I went down that path as well. I mean, my corporation went into, basically went in and joined a, we were still in our own corporation, but we went and started working with the high-sec training component for the alliance that we were going to end up in. And then eventually we made it out to null-sec, where you get used to operating out there, and then you really don't want to do pretty much anything else. I still like coming back to high-sec to do faction warfare and abyssals and things like that, but there is a level of learning. There's a learning curve to kind of like surviving and operating out in null-sec that differs from high-sec, but the line is drawn pretty clearly. I mean, when somebody comes into local and they're not blue, if they're neutral, then they're against you. Whereas in high-sec, everybody appears as neutral in high-sec, so you really don't know who the enemy is, and that's one of the biggest benefits of null-sec is you know who is against you and who is with you and everything. But hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that answered some questions, but thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.